Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mr. Theo. You're here with us at the MHP, aka the Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast for men's mental health. We are hyper focused on Black men. So today we have with us Mr. Justin Owens, LPC, licensed professional counselor. Don't forget that. He's here to talk to us today about a myriad of things in Black men's culture, how we can move forward with healing. We'll talk about things of sexual nature, status, bonds with other men, how we can grow that, because we both know that is hard. He has his own practice, his Owens Counseling, and you're licensed in Dallas and in Louisiana.
Yes, sir.
So licensed in both. We're going to get his backstory a little bit, and then we're going to get straight into it. We're not going to waste your time. We want to get men to healing. So with that, with no further ado, Mr. Owens, welcome. Thank you for being here. It's been a long time coming. I appreciate it. Appreciate the patience. Hopefully, logistically, I did my due diligence. You know what I'm saying? But please let us know a little bit about your background, you know what I'm saying, how you came to be a counselor, why is it important to you, and then why specifically, you know what I'm saying, men are important to you, and Black men more particularly.
Yeah, most definitely. I would say for me, getting into counseling wasn't like the direct path I was trying to take. So I'm from Los Angeles, born and raised, Inglewood, California, Hawthorne, Lakewood for a little bit. And anybody that lives in California, you can bounce around for a little while. So I was real big into theater. And so theater is what really led me into the counseling space and into psychology. Because with theater, you're acting. I went to acting school out there in Hollywood, a nice little small acting school. Unfortunately, it closed recently due to unfortunate circumstances. But it really got me in the mindset of studying people and studying behavior. Right? Because when you're acting, when you're looking at a character, you have to understand what their motives are and why they're doing what they're doing. Because you're not just reading lines on the script. And so for me, when I went to undergrad at Grambling, I went to do undergrad in psychology to become a better actor. Yeah, because I wanted to get a better understanding of human development, I wanted to get a better understanding of how people engage in their communities, how does a family impact you, how does your social environment impact you. But I ended up instead becoming very interested in psychology. So that's what that transition looked like. And so after that, after Grambling, I ran into a little rust spot.
Okay.
A little rust spot in my life to where I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was going down to New Orleans to go to seminary. But what happened was...
what had happened was...
that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. Ended up having to stay with my girlfriend's family. My girlfriend at that time, because I wasn't able to go to seminary, financial issues happened. And I was like, I need something. Can't do anything with a psychology undergrad degree because you have to go all the way. Didn't want to go into psychology per se to become a psychologist. My perception of that was very much so skewed by my experience in undergrad. About counseling, that's the next thing. So that's how it. So it was in one way out of necessity, and then when I got there, it really aligned with who I am and who I currently am as a person.
Okay. You went under to get the way through, so to speak. So here's a great question. I probably have asked this before in prior episodes, but this is a great way to start. I think this is a new season of the MHP. So you said something very particular and interesting. You said you didn't necessarily want to be a psychologist, but you want to be a counselor. I think the psychology umbrella has so many different letters to the last name, tricks of the trade, licensure. You said you're licensed in 2 states. Some people don't understand a therapist can do that. So how can you describe because one thing I say before is men aren't going to watch this podcast, particularly Black men, at the end and say, let me go to counseling. They're not going to end the episode, pull up their phone, look up psychologytoday.com and say, oh, I need a therapist now. I've been through therapy myself a few times, hopefully some. If you do, thank you. Leave a 5-star review, give us a comment, MHP, let me therapy. But I'm realistic. Therapy helped me to learn, like, you got to have realistic expectation. But anyway, you say, please explain to us what would be the difference in being a therapist and being a psychologist.
So part of it's going to depend on the psychologist. So psychologist, one, you got to have a PhD.
Okay, dang, off top.
Yeah, you cannot be considered a psychologist unless you have a PhD in psychology.
Okay.
You have different types of psychology. You got clinical psychology. You got forensic psychology. You got counseling psychology. You have... Those are like the top 3 that I usually hear about. Your clinical psychologists, they may be more assessment and research based, but again, that's going to be dependent on that individual and what they want to do. So you do have some clinical psychologists who don't only do assessments. They might do traditional talk therapy. Some clinical psychologists are going to be doing more research for the field and within that area. Some clinical psychologists might be clinical directors, where they're heading a clinic or a community health center that's focusing on mental health. Counseling psychology is usually going to be more within that realm of playing that traditional therapist role that you're going to see a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But again, I think out here in Texas, being a psychologist allows you to perform certain assessments that maybe a master's level clinician may not be able to.
Got you. Tracking. I think if you don't know, I think you need to know that to know what you're looking for. You may not need a wholesale psychologist. You may need a counselor for your problem. It would be good to know for you to do self-inventory to know your problem and move forward. Now, with you knowing that, what made you want to go into counseling rather than be a full kind of psychologist, getting the PhD? And then what was the kind of, in your background, what was your niche? What was your driving force that led you to, this is for me, even though you was like, it didn't work out for one, but being what I don't know, being under the psychology umbrella, it takes a lot of mental fortitude and emotional depth and weight for you all to take on other people's problems. So you guys are fortifying yourself and learning how to kind of, I don't know if matriculate is the right word, but run through somebody else's problems. That does stick on you. That gets on your jacket. So what would make you want to do this?
One, you got to make sure you're not wearing a jacket that's Velcro, where you're not taking these things with you. And also, I would say acknowledging when it does, not ignoring that it is attaching itself to you. Because you're going to, let's be real, you're going to have cases, depending on the population you're working with, it's going to hit you hard. And you're going to have cases that you relate to. If I'm dealing with somebody that maybe dealt with a very strict upbringing, I'm going to connect with certain levels of those, right? It's one thing to connect and being able to sit with that individual versus being like oversharing in a sense.
Yeah.
So versus being like, okay, yeah, no, I can
Empathize and sympathize.
I have some understanding of what that experience can look like. However, I would love to hear what has been your experience, what impact you in that space. And so again, being able to have the awareness of hindsight to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And then also too, every good therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever, if you're working directly with these communities like that, every therapist has a therapist.
Because my first therapist told me that. She said any therapist worth their salt is going to have a therapist.
You should. So one, in your master's program, you're required to go to therapy.
Okay.
When I was in grad school, it was like 2017 when I was in grad school. We had to go to therapy. We had to sit in the chair. We had to be on the other side of that so we know what that experience is like.
Mm-hmm.
So on one end, it gives you an opportunity to process your stuff.
Yeah.
But you got to talk about that too, man. When you're in these programs and you're getting a good insight into human development, it's going to be your stuff. Your stuff is going to be staring you right in your face to where you can no longer ignore it.
Damn.
So there's things that have gone unprocessed. You know, it's going to be good to be able to sit in that chair and process those things. For instance, you can have concerns about, am I going to be a good therapist? Can I do this? What happens when I work with somebody that might be older than me? Are they going to respect me within that space, within that area? And so again, having a therapist in the beginning was required so we can unpack some of those things. And then even having a therapist now, that's too, you might want to process that, or just in general do some check-ins.
Listen, Mr. Owens doing the work. If y'all ever second guess whether or not when you look it up, he's making sure his jacket is clean. So when he comes into the session, bare, and we can talk about your problems. Okay, your niche. So I think we talk. I'll not break the fourth wall, but I'll let him in on the process. We talked before, and usually what I try to do is curate the conversation around what your niche is, because that would be super easy to have a conversation. And I'm not gonna alley-oop it. I want you to get straight into it. Like, what keeps you in this industry, and what was attracting to you. So usually there's a niche where I found out that kind of is a driving force. That's, I could do this no matter what, no matter how hard the session was, no matter if I wanted to argue, was about to fight, I got to help someone cry on my shoulders. What was the catalyst that got you to that point?
I would say a little bit of both, right? I've been fortunate to have many fathers in my life, including my own. I love my dad. We have a pretty good relationship, but I've also had a lot of black male mentors who poured into me, right? So that was something that I've always wanted to do. And then also just noticing a lot of the black men in my family and that I've come across, we carry this burden. It's a burden of having to uphold everything. And I started to realize that it keeps us at arm's length away from a lot of relationships, right? It keeps us at arm's length from ourselves, from our kids if you have them, from your spouse if you're married, from your family, from friends. Because a lot of times I'm noticing that us as men, and then even more so black men, we will self-isolate in order to try to heal or in order to try to deal with our stuff versus engaging in a community or a support system. I'm going to go to my circle. I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to call my sister. I'm going to call my homegirl. I'm going to go to a space that is curated just for us. Even when you look at the television shows, look at Girlfriends, right? Living Single, right?
Yeah.
You see these units of women who are banding together.
Yeah.
Where some men, we may not be as forthright. And so that was one of the things that really had me looking at things differently. And so when I was in grad school, I asked myself the question of how do black men deal with stress? And then also what contributes to stress?
Okay, try it. God's timing is divine, because it's interesting that you say that, because much like therapy, you got to be open. In order to move forward, you got to open the door so you can walk through it. And so I've been going through, particularly, I just moved here in this location, and I'm like going through the same thing. Literally a few days ago, probably like last week, I emailed 5 or 6 therapists, because like I'm going through a rut. So just started a business. I just became an engineer. I've been wanting to be an engineer for years. I finally became one last year, and I'm dealing with, I don't technically believe in this phrase, like suffering from success. I'm just going through a rut to position myself to manage all these things, right? I'm on the precipice of success, and I see it. The vision is so clear. I know it's supposed to be there, but am I drowning? I'm trying to think in real time. Like, I have meditated, but am I drowning? Am I not? In my own stuff. I have this podcast. Some people are like, you're Mr. Therapy. It's not even about that. I've been to therapy twice. Healing is a journey, not a destination. Nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? In particular, I have those natural things of growing up for like masculinity, like nobody gonna touch me, and this whole protector provider rhetoric thing. I have my own belief system. I don't believe in it, but that causes me to do things and handle things in a way that is not particularly probably healthy for me or you know what I'm saying, the people around me. So men, let's say stress management. And so one of the many things in your practice, and of course confidentiality, you can't tell explicit stories, but in your practice, what is coming up for why aren't men just, even scientifically I understand, but why aren't men just, bro, I'm hurting. Like, it's weird for me too. It's like in our spaces in the barbershop and in the man cave, I think we talked about it on Zoom, it's like we could talk about sports easy. We could talk about women easy. You don't come in there and say, bro, I'm drowning. Like,
but let's say you break your leg, right? And you're on the ground and you're in pain. If I reach out to try to touch your leg, what's the first thing you're going to do?
reach for it before you can.
You know, I know that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
If I touch it, it's going to hurt. And that's what vulnerability is, right? I am becoming defensive, or I'm isolating because I'm trying to protect myself from this injury, right? From this wound. And it's one that we have to be real. Therapy hurts. When you break a bone, you go to a doctor, they got to reset that bone. That's going to be painful. The way that they're going to have to lock that back into place, that's going to be extremely painful. I would rather sit here by myself and deal with this own pain versus having to go through that short time of pain in the moment in order to realign my healing. And so when you're asking men to be vulnerable, one, I think in general we have to understand that vulnerability is not easy. I don't care who you are.
By no means.
Men, women, non-binary, child, whoever. Vulnerability is not this thing that we can just call on task. That's not how that works. However, I will say that we have to recognize that when you're going for something that hurts, people are naturally going to be defensive. They're going to take a step back, right? Because if you touch this, it's going to hurt me, and I don't want to recall these things anyway. And then secondly, you have to look at the social space of it, right? Us as men, and again, I'm going to say us as black men, we are usually taught, we've been told, or we've heard that you cannot be vulnerable. That being vulnerable is life-threatening.
Yeah, I hear it in the music and the movies and television. It makes you food out here.
So in some ways, that is a little bit of our reality. And so that's not to ignore. We just have to look at the reality of that. Vulnerability can be a livelihood. If I share things with the wrong person, I may not be as trusting. If I'm in an environment that does not nurture that type of thing, I could be compromising myself, right? Or I might be exposing myself in the workspace or with this individual. So there is some truth to that, right? So the goal of being comfortable with vulnerability is creating safe spaces with one another, including yourself.
Was just about to ask you, do you believe in the terms? Because I learned that, I think it's from my second therapist. And so do you use that in your practice? Do you try to teach and say safe spaces? So if you do, Please teach us exactly what that is. There's been a bubble burst, and people use plenty of words incorrectly. They're listening to these influencers and grifters who don't know what they're talking about, using this stuff incorrectly. So please teach us and the fellas, what is a safe space? Why do you need to care about it? And how do you create it?
I would say that basically, safe space where you feel safe, right? But the safe space for you is this is a space I can go to not to avoid things, but a space that I can go to, I can share these things. I always tell people emotional resilience is different than emotional avoidance. The goal is to build resilience, not resiliency in the survivors. I want to clarify that.
Please.
Because a lot of us, like, we're black, we've been having to be resilient our whole life.
Yeah.
That's a survivor mode resilience. I just got to get it through. Resiliency is I can engage with my difficult emotions and my difficult experiences without being overwhelmed by them and without wanting to avoid them. I can sit with and process it. I can say, man, me moving from, I don't know where you moved from, but let's say me moving from Baltimore to Dallas and leaving my family and starting an engineering company and a podcast, all these things, man, on the outside looking in, it's successful. On the inside, this is really stressful. This is a lot to manage. And maybe I'm scared to share this because people going to be like, what were you talking about, baby? Successful. You got it going. But on the inside, I'm like, ooh, man, did I bite off more than I can chew? We did bite off more than we can chew. Okay, what do I need to create for my system? If my family's not here, do I need to set up time to call my mom? I ain't talked to her in a little while.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, so those safe spaces are going to be people that you feel safe with and comfortable with. They can be your family, they can be friends, they can be coworkers if y'all cool like that. It can also be a space for yourself. Right? And so again, not necessarily going to your man cave and playing 2K and all that stuff. That could be a variation of it. But maybe going to your man cave and journaling. Right? Maybe going to your man cave and reflecting on a few things. Your safe space can be your spouse. It can be one of it. She or he can be one of your safe spaces. Where I can go to this individual and have these very honest conversations. They're not my therapist, but I can connect with them and share these things with them. Like myself included. Us as men, we have a hard time being open and having that type of vulnerable communication or that open communication with our partner.
I speak about the ad nauseum. I'm not gonna break that anymore. But one thing that I reflected on what you were saying is I'm doing that now. I'm trying to build, I call them tribes. I'm trying to build a new tribe of like men, and there is a delicate dance of you don't look. Let's be honest. Most men being, I call it comprehensive. There's a balance within each of us of like masculinity and femininity. Someone's recording another podcast, talking right now, talking masculinity and femininity, what men are doing and what women are doing. And nobody, and it is the funniest thing, nobody looks up nothing. They literally get on a microphone, say a word that they're using contextually completely wrong, and people are just believing them. So I'm going to...
Misinformation and misinterpretation of information.
It is running rampant and it's disgusting. But anyway, I'm doing that right now, and I know there's a balance, and I can't just come into a space full of men and just be like, I'm hurting right now. You do have to, I understand you have to develop that rapport first and then assess them as to be a safe space. But let's talk about right there. Let's say I meet a group of homies. We've been talking, and it's to a point where like we've been meeting each other weekly. There is a rapport built. How can you suggest to us as men to take that leap? Because that leap is hard. It is hard, but with anyone, with your woman, with men, it's a dance. It's like, when do I jump in? Is it going to be okay? Are they going to like emotionally punch me in my nose? Come on, man. I don't care what or who you are. Don't nobody want to hear that when you're bearing yourself.
No, it sucks. Tonight you just showed me that I can't. You showed me the limitations of our friendship now.
And it's sad.
It can very much, man. I would say maybe like a simple question. Right? Like, hey, how are you? How's everybody doing? And being able to even say, hey, man, I don't want that surface level stuff. Be real. Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times,
I'm good.
Now, you can very much so be good. I'm not going to sit there and act like everybody got to have a problem.
Yeah.
But you can always ask follow-up questions. What does good mean? What does good look like? A lot of us, we don't know how to answer the follow-up questions. Right? We don't know how to answer or use open-ended questions. Right? That's going to explore how people are feeling a little bit more. Right? That allows you to avoid a lot of straight answers. Even when I'm working with male clients, they're not used to being open, to being asked these open-ended questions and being asked to go deeper. Now, some of them can't wait. Boy, they will tell you their whole life story first session. You're like, oh, we have time. Like, no, I need the information. But, man, we don't have to cover every single thing within a 55 minute span. We're We'll have more than one person. We'll have more than 12.
That's interesting to me. It shows how depravity could show in oneself. Like if someone's ready to talk your head off, it shows how, you know what I'm saying, distant they've been to their own community. That's all right, I'll get into it. I didn't want to get to it, but that's for what I believe the protector provider rhetoric is. I believe that is the dark side of what that is. For my understanding of it, that term coined, it got popular during the 50s. And around that time, men were doing hard labor jobs. Steel mill. Ford just popped out, did all these cars. So you're going to go to Ford. Coal mining. Building planes, flying planes. The military. Army. And so around that time, being a protective provider had to do with a meritocracy. What have you done for me lately? Is what you do cashes out to your worth. So if you don't have a job where you're not like busting your hands down to the meat, and if you're not coming home and just like handing your check over, and the only thing you could do is sit down, wait for the game comes on, and ask for the big piece of chicken. And it's just, that's it. And it's the country set that social standard. Like, men, if you're not in a position of power, if you're not working for the government, if you're not the president or senator, we don't care what you think. We don't care how you feel. What we need to know is take your behind to work because you have everyone else around you to take care of. After you have done that, then we care about your emotions. That has left an entire generation of men deprived and void of understanding what emotional space is, what emotional intelligence is, what emotional freedom is. And that's where we at now. And then we have now, I'm in my 30s, I'm dating. Now it's a whole contention point between men and women, particularly in the black space, which is weird because we've gone through this thing called slavery and Jim Crow, that everyone's saying we're not the men's men. We're not where the real men at. You should be worried about me being a comprehensive man. And so how is that showing up in your client status, and how, like, what are you teaching us as men in that space? What do you particularly believe?
Coming back to what you said, right now, I love the way that you broke down that history of that, right? Where, when this became popular, where does it stem from, right? Because now you're talking about the white picket fence, American dream, social standard of what a family, 2 parents, 2 kids, 1 dog, what that looks like.
Good.
And so when you're looking at that period, looking at those jobs, I started to learn that patriarchy is built on capitalistic labor, right? So even as you broke it down, we don't care about your heart or your mind. We care about your body. What can you do for me? And if I separate the two, I have the greatest worker, right?
Is this work?
How much he can work and what he can do, right? And so I have somebody that's going to work their butt off because they have the family, right? Because they got a wife they got to take care of. We also have to look at how World War II impacts masculinity, right? Mm-hmm. How does the Korean War impact masculinity? How did World War I impact masculinity? Because the military is going to be a microcosm of America, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to be a strong implementation of what it means to be an American male.
Very much. Very much so.
And you're talking about a lot of these World War II vets coming back home. One, you're probably going to have difficulty engaging with emotions because of shell shock, which later became PTSD, which doesn't really pop up until after Vietnam almost. So that's already going to cause some difficulty, some rigidness in the household, some attachment from family because, you know, what you experienced during these time periods.
Yeah.
And also hardness is going to be associated with that sense of masculinity.
True.
Now you're bringing these individuals to the workforce where they give them something to do. Other way. So you're going from one performance space to another performance space. I think the interesting thing with that, though, too, when looking at the black community, for black men specifically, is it's always us striving for Eurocentric standards of maleness, right? Masculinity. Because again, when you're looking at World War II, when you're looking at the 50s, when all this is coming back up, we aren't given the same opportunities as our white counterparts.
GI Bill.
Flights doesn't happen around this time. GI Bill is happening around this time. Not being able to go to these institutions for colleges. That's why you start going to HBCUs. They get that boom around there. And so we're always setting this standard for ourselves that wasn't created with us in mind. And it is a belief system held by both of us. Because in order to be a patriarch, in order to be this masculine piece, you have to be domineering in your nature. And there has to be a subordinate.
I had another episode where he was a black man who deals with children. He's a trauma specialist. And he brought up the patriarchy. And he said something that, to this day, I'm as empathetic and as open, as emotionally intelligent, aware as I can be. And I'm still working. But he said black men are a part of the patriarchy. And so he said that black men are a part of the patriarchy. Okay, so please, I didn't want to get into it because we were supposed to talk about something else. But right here, right now, like logically, I get it. But as you said, it's a white male Eurocentric type of thing, and we as black people were brought over here. Now I understand at the basis, because I'm a man, I benefit from it. But how can I be of it? Yeah. I think to me, there's a separation.
So we can be of it because we practice it. You talk about, I go home, I go to work, I'll bring in a paycheck, I get the big piece of chicken. You can't say nothing. Don't talk to me a certain way. I'm the leader that's allowed to package. So, well, I'm the leader. I'm Simon Says. And so you're asking your wife to be inferior to you because you're the leader, or your leadership as male superiority. Right? So you may not be able to fully experience it in society. You're trying to recreate it in your house. So that's where you're getting that sense of control from. That sense of that feeling of power that I may not be receiving outside these doors. Put my feet up, my wife brings me my dinner, she's cleaning the house, she's cooking out. If things just happen to fall in that line where your wife is, or your spouse is doing more of the housework, there should be room where y'all can meet and y'all can say, hey, we need to restructure this framework here, this system we got going on, right? Just the power to do that. And so when you had brought up earlier of how I view it, it's weird because something I still struggle with.
Me too.
I've done my research, I've read the books, and I tell other men about this, but I still have my own value attached to how much money I make, right? I still have my own sense of worth attached to the job and work that I do, right? Man, if I didn't have a job, oh my God, like it's scary thinking about it. What do I bring to the house?
And this is not the market to be looking.
It's not the market at all. And what do I bring to the house, right? If it's me just washing clothes, which is not just washing clothes, but me cleaning the house, taking care, is that going to suffice if my wife has to take on the majority of the finances because I lost my job? How did that change the relationship dynamic? And I think that kind of can go into as well when you're saying how women can also, not infiltrate, but how they can also use the patriarchy.
Benefit from
Or benefit from it or enable it.
Yeah.
So my views on it is the concept of masculinity and patriarchy is not as self-serving as men think. It's actually extremely stressful. And it's the reason that a lot of us are dying at such young ages.
For sure. I think it's not a false narrative, but it's a falsehood as to every household is going to look how it's supposed to look between you and that person. In dating right now, I always ask that. And I think the woman looks at me and perceives and thinks, my attempt is to be this controlling, domineering guy. I ask it to understand what is your viewpoint of it, because we can reevaluate and we can redefine terms, because we do it all the time. A man and a woman doesn't mean the same thing it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
If we're gonna be honest, man, within the black community, my great grandmother was. I found this out some years ago. She was a housekeeper. I don't know how long she was a housekeeper for. I don't know if she was a housekeeper when my papa was working in the factory. I don't know, but I do know that she worked. But both of them worked. We have rarely been, and my therapist had to do it. She said like Justin, you're putting an expectation on yourself that doesn't make any sense.
It's not real, bro.
And so I call it the masculine fantasy, right? I don't call it the theoretical frame. This was in like 1920s, 1930s. It's why he's not popular in America. So he talks about the masculine fantasy being the man who makes all the decisions, he's the breadwinner, he's this and he's that. But it is this fantasy that's built in power and in control. And a lot of times, these are the things that he is striving for, and when he does, he's doing so aggressively. And anything that does not align with the masculine fantasy or the masculine line, he tries to avoid strong, right? So when you're looking at a feminist perspective or femininity, he's going to push as far as he can from that line, which might show up or usually shows up as an overcompensation behaviors. I'm over-aggressive. I'm over-domineering.
Hyper-masculine.
I'm hyper-masculine. And he's not talking about black people. He's talking about men in general. So my views on patriarchy is I need to find a way to unchain myself from that system and to check myself when I'm comparing
my sense of worth or comparing how I'm doing as a husband and as a black man in America to that system. Because one, it is hard as hell to do, especially in this day and age. And two, once you get there, then what?
I don't believe in the fantasy. Like you said, it's not real and it's not realistic. And in today's time, like, it's convoluted because how dating was pre-pandemic is so different from
You had to
post-pandemic.
actually get to know people. You had to actually sit down.
I'm confused
Okay.
like 88% of the time.
Really?
Because when this topic, protector provider, patriarchy comes up, like you said, it's like revisionist history. Shout out to Malcolm Gladwell. I read his books. He has a podcast called Revisionist History.
Okay.
It's like people just rewrite and just say stuff when you don't do. Have you done the science?
And I want to clarify too, because I think a lot of times the rebuttal with that is you just want black women to struggle. You just want them to have a hard life. And I think what we have to realize is I don't think anybody has a hard life. Right? Hard work and a hard life are going to be two different things, right? I think it goes back to what you said. Each relationship and household is going to look different, right? If you can do that, great. There's going to be a time where I'm probably going to be able to do that, right? I feel like I'm really good at what I do. I have a business. I want to expand and grow that business. However, you're still wanting to make sure that you are connecting with your family, you're connecting with your wife. It's not I do my job, I sit on the couch, give me the big thing of chicken, and nobody knows me. I don't invest in my marriage. I don't invest in my relationship with my kids. To do so is a blessing. However, it's going to depend on not every household is built that way. You have to find what works with you. I think for some people, it can feel like, dang, I had to settle. For men, it might feel like, man, I had to settle. I thought I was going to be able to do more than this. When you really have to sit in your reality. For some women, it might be like, I feel like I'm settling because I feel like he should be able to do X, Y, Z. But I think what it is, you're looking at reality of the situation, having to understand that you're going to have to meet yourself where you are and learn how to work with each other in that partnership.
I'm with that. There was some TV show that I watched, and the lady who in the therapist community, they don't particularly like her. She said, sometimes you got to meet people where they at. Yeah. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And that men are growing, and sometimes you got to meet men where they at also. So in this particular point in time, there's this weird juxtaposition that I feel like I'm in, and most men are in. Like you said, we have this calling to be this protector, provider, and so on and so forth. And there's an emotional avoidance and void in the most of us. I assume that's mostly what you handle in your practice, and it affects us in a myriad of ways. I think most men, like you said, I don't like the term toxic masculinity. That's why I say hyped masculinity and femininity in itself just is. It's like air. It's like fire. It's like water. It is. It in and of itself is not nefarious and evil. It's what you do with it and how you present it. Water isn't evil. If you go out and swim and I come back and I'm alive, you're not going to say, nobody should touch water. But if someone drowns, you shouldn't say, oh, it's the water's fault. No, you need to know how to swim. Neither is fire.
Like, have better awareness too.
It's particularly about you. It's about how you execute your masculinity and so on and so forth. And so I would like a good explanation I'm about balance. I call the word a comprehensive. You should be a comprehensive man. And what I mean by that is a fair balance of all things within you. We both have masculinity and femininity. It's about, should you be more forward leaning to one because of sexual organs, things of that nature, nurture versus nurture, socialization? Of course, but it doesn't mean you can't like tap in sometimes to your femininity. You know what I'm saying? So how do you teach that practice about men being balanced, comprehensive men?
You don't have to, because you're talking about adhering to hegemonic masculine norms, right? So hegemonic masculine norms is the domineering, this is the one way to be a man, right? And so understanding that masculinity is not a monolith. The same way that blackness is not a monolith, right? There's not just one way to be a black person. There's not one way to be a black man. And so how you identify that is going to be completely up to you. Now, there is going to be some consequences to this.
Okay.
So if you're going to choose not to adhere to these hegemonic masculine norms and expectations, you might be looking at getting rejected by other men. Might be looking at getting rejected by other women, right? And because you're not aligning with what is expected of you, right? So if I told somebody, man, I'm not trying to pay all the bills, right? Now, if you lose your job, And that's where it comes out. And okay, hey, we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
But if we're like sitting here and saying, I want you, because you're a man, you're supposed to provide in that way, and I say I'm not going to subscribe to this, then people might, oh, you ain't a real man. You ain't trying to do your job. What kind of husband? What kind of yada, yada, yada? You're going to hear these things. So when I'm looking at masculinity, I'm talking to men who are adhering to this and myself in general, to be honest, I'm like, you need to throw it out the window. Because you really need to show up in just who you are as a, what you're talking about is just showing up as a human being. Who I am as Justin Owens, whether that's goofy, whether that's silly, whether that's serious, whatever it may be, these are the things that make me as an individual, as a person. I might not even prioritize masculinity. I may not even prioritize blackness. It doesn't mean that I hate blackness or that I hate being a man when it comes to characteristics of who I am as a person. So when I'm working with men, we're looking at transitioning from extrinsic value to intrinsic value, right? Extrinsic it can be very performance based, right? Because you're looking at hegemonic masculinity is going to be performance masculinity, right? So when I go in for my yearly peer review, right? Yeah. How well did I do my job? And that's what performance masculinity becomes. But see, that's how we get our validation. That's how we get our sense of belonging. That's how we get our sense of need.
So how can we free ourselves from that and still be confident in this? Because whether we like it or not, that is taught rather than much of everything that inflicts us is more taught and observed more than anything. So how can I still be confident, still be secure, still be my own version of masculinity, still show up in the world and still feel confident that like I could find a woman that kind of accepts me for me? Because let's be honest, I'm in my 30s. The young boys that are Gen Z, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups with just like black men in group chats. I can't tell you how many times a young boy in his 20s, fresh out of college or not, or dropped out, and we talk about dating, you know what I'm saying? Most of us in our 30s and 40s, what y'all doing? What's dating look like for y'all? Like, y'all just on the apps and such? I can't tell you how many young boys, I'm not really into dating right now. Why not? You young, you should be out there. You need to get experience. So I ain't got my money up. I don't feel like dating. I don't feel like I'm enough to date. I'm like, what? That's disheartening. That pains me. Why are you attesting money to your value?
Yeah, because that's one of those primary cores of masculinity, right? How much money you make, the woman that you have on your shoulder, your athleticism, your physical fitness piece, right? When you think of on both ends, really, when you think of any picture of maleness, of black maleness, right? You thinking of athletic, maybe 6 foot plus tall, has money. These are the heroes, things you look up to, right? On all those other ends. And so if I'm being told that my value of a man as a man is built on how much money I'm able to make, then my value is going to rise and fall. And so my value is contingent upon something that is unpredictable. Right, because you could lose a job today or tomorrow.
Yeah,
what happened with deindustrialization? So we talk about the jobs that a lot of people had, black men, white men in general in the 80s. You'd probably say 50s, 60s, 70s. You had all these factory jobs that had pension. Like, they would provide for, like, you could legit provide for a family doing these jobs and do well and have the houses and all that stuff. And then deindustrialization happens. Deindustrialization happens, and they move all those factory jobs overseas. And now all these people lose these jobs. What happens to these towns? They experience poverty, right? Yeah. What happens when you experience poverty? You're going to see an increase in violence, drugs, again, maybe some gang activity. People are trying to make money, find things they can do. So if my job can leave today or tomorrow, and I'm telling myself how much money I make defines who I am as an individual, when I make a lot of money, I feel good. When I'm not making a lot of money, I'm depressed.
I as the young boys would say, I can't cap. That's me. Because if I'm being honest, in my maturity, I make a justification that because tech, there's a lot of assumptions. There is a lot of money. I ain't gonna say a lot.
I thought I was balling. I'm not gonna
lie. I'll be honest, most are. But I don't do it for the money, honestly. People don't believe that. But while I was in it, it is relatively easy to get to the money. So,
are you still in tech?
Yeah, I'm an engineer.
Okay.
By trade, and I love it. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I got to 6 figures fairly quickly.
Okay.
And the whole thing with it now is like, when you said certain traits of masculinity, I feel like most women these days are part of the 3-6 mafia. He got to be over 6 feet, He got to be over 6 feet, make over 6 figures, and be over 6 inches. You know what I mean by the inches? Because I already said the feet. So I feel like that's the 3 things. I was there. I was on a rat race. And like I said, I feel like I justified it. But it really was trying to hit the 6 figures so that could be one less thing I could worry about. When I'm out here networking, when I'm out here trying to get the woman, and as soon as she says it, how much you make? I make well over 6 figures. Easy. I get it off. And now I'm realizing, like, it don't matter. Here's the funny thing. When I got to 6 figures, it didn't matter.
So the only pushback I'll give to that is, one, that's dope to be a black man in such a space that isn't normally afforded to us. I'm not talking about the financial. I'm talking about you just being an engineer. It's really cool. When I can only imagine what it's like being in that space. But when we're looking at black people and material things, I feel like that's been a part of our culture. I think it's always been seen as negative. But the thing that I love about black people is some of our sense of passion and how we do things, right? Like, you'll go watching your interviews and the style that you, like, I love how you coordinate all of that, right? Because it's a reflection of you and how you're doing. And I think for us as black people, it is a form of resistance and a form of rebellion, right? That instead of me assimilating to your non-seasoned chicken flavored attire, I'm going to show up as me. But when I put on my chains, you demonize it. When Shador had all them chains, or why when black men show up a little, why y'all gotta be so flat? That's just a part of who we are. It's not necessarily, yes, it can be flaunting a little bit, and if not managed properly, it can become a problem. But that's important. Now, you said also with the money piece, I think one of the reasons it's hard for us in the black community to view money as a tool is because a lot of us has spent time surviving.
Survival mode.
Whether it is, and you don't gotta be living in the hood to be in survival mode, right? You could be middle class, lower middle class, and they're still experiencing survivor mode.
Yep, there are articles about that. People in 6 figures weren't making check to check. Articles out there,
and that could be a lifestyle thing for that, and also inflation. But just when we're looking at our black neighborhoods, I think that's why we don't see money as a tool. We see money as a means to getting out of our circumstance. And when I finally get a chance to experience something I've never done before or have before, to work from a place where finances is a resource that can be seen as a tool, I think is a privilege.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, that's not to justify negative behavior, though, or financial illiteracy.
Yeah, for sure. When I talk to them, some of them was born and raised with the silver spoon, some with the gold spoon, some with the diamond spoon. There's levels to the spoon thing, and it's just the way they taught, like, they know about CD, the S&P 500. They know about how to trust, how to wrap a business in a trust and do the car out the trust so you don't own it. If you repo it don't affect your credit. Like, they was talking, it's young boys in their 20s or something talking about this. I'm like, where y'all? The only way I got from it was I was in the Army, and I got to some of that because I got to experience of different races. But y'all just grew up just hearing it. Like, it's weird, like, coming from my circumstances, like, it was foreign to me that you knew this at 20-something. Like, how? I thought it was only because of experience, and like, it's generational to them, and that's the big difference.
But even with that, right, we can bridge that back, and how does that play in the masculinity development piece? So if I'm using, if I'm using a Eurocentric framework to judge and measure my life or to aspire to, I also have to acknowledge that I'm starting from a different tier. If this group of people is coming from a household of significant wealth or okay wealth, or maybe it's not even wealth, maybe you're just decently well off, you're coming out there with knowledge that I may not have, unless my parents themselves have that. And so here I am trying to be the sole provider. Here I am trying to engage in the world as the man. But I'm starting from this tier that doesn't necessarily put me in the space to do. And so I'm constantly working against this tide. And in that, I'm getting stressed out. Right? In that, I'm getting high blood pressure. In that, I'm becoming very emotion reactive because I'm angry that the world is not working my way. And I might be putting that on my partners, on my friends, on myself. Right? And so again, when you have that Eurocentric framework and you don't know how to meet yourself where you are, that becomes very problematic.
How can I myself, even through in a marriage, in a relationship, and even when I'm dating, because I ain't gonna lie, I'm going through it. I'm struggling. And I'm going to find a therapist and I'm going to work through it. And oftentimes I find myself in this juxtaposition of being secure in what we just talked about. I'm still masculine to a certain extent, but I honestly don't feel, and there should be a certain way in which you create the rapport with a woman, because there are unspoken expectations because of our socialization, nature versus nurture. I do believe in the representative. Like when you come into a date, there's a representative. I'm not knocking that because first impressions are everything. You should make a first impression. But also, I'm divorced. This goes with that. I'm divorced. And so I've had the experience. And so I like to cut through the chase and get right to it on the first date. But sometimes maybe that looks too feminine. Like, why are you telling me all this on the first date? And I don't go out.
So you mean get right to it? What do you mean?
Do you believe in a protect the provider rhetoric? If so, why? What does that look like for you? What are your morals and values? And I'm a conversationalist. I have a podcast. We're sitting there having a conversation. It's not dry. It's not going to feel like an interview. But I'm not about to ask you what's your favorite color. What do you like to dance? Like, I'm getting older. I've been through marriage. So I know I would never give anyone advice, but I know what it takes to get to the point. I know what it takes to go through something. I know what it takes to go through marriage counseling. That's how my entry to therapy happened. Like, I was going through a divorce, trying to make it work, and then I went to therapy to hand them all crap. And I'm figuring out, like, that emotional space in me opening up, women run from that. I've literally had, I don't want to say it. I'm not into like rage baiting or just doing the gender war.
You might as well share it. Yeah.
But I've had it to a point where women is, I don't want to say they said man enough, but feel like I'm comfortable with you. And I think I attest that to their perception of my masculinity, what it looks like. And so it affects the masculinity. Patriarchy does affect women. Their outlook on us and what that looks like and what we can and can't do even before we married. Like, why can't I be open and, I'm going to say this, fluid with my emotions. Yeah. Let's be clear. At that time. Fluid with my emotions and be outright and be confident in that and still be stoic sometimes, but still be openly expressive, like opening up. Like, I ain't got to sit here and be like,
the permission of experiencing the whole gamut of my emotional self. And no, I'm glad you said that, because that's what comes across my table a lot. For some, as men, we can assume sometimes how our significant other may respond to us, and so we withhold information. The socialization of men is not just for boys, it happens with girls as well. So there's an expectation that comes along with this. I think naturally as people, we're going to expect the things that make us feel the most comfortable and the most safe. As human beings, your goal is comfort. When you look at children, right, babies want extreme comfort, right? That's why they cry at every sense of discomfort, and that's when we're communicating. But when it comes to like men expressing emotions to women and with women, a lot of what I hear is that she doesn't know how to handle my emotions, or she doesn't feel comfortable when I share these things. And so in that way, one always asks, how are you expressing these emotions? How are you communicating it? Because we might think we're doing an amazing job communicating this, right? But in reality, are we yelling? Are we communicating as effectively as we thought that we were? When it comes to what it is that we're trying to say or that we're trying to express, are we sharing with our significant others when we feel like they're interrogating our emotions or trying to make our emotions make sense to them? And if it doesn't make sense to them, then does it make us feel invalidated? And if it does, how do we express that piece? Because those are very tough conversations to have with an individual, right? Now, on the flip end, yes, I can see that there is a world where women may not know how to deal with a man who is more emotional than what they've become accustomed to. So I call it the partner versus parent.
Break that down, please.
Yeah, so if you had a male father in your life within the black community, or a father figure in the black community, how he shows up as a parent is going to be different. The way my father showed up with us as a father, it's probably going to be different than the way he shows up with my mom. Right? So the way your father comes off as strong and he's stoic, and I've never seen him cry. He ain't never complained about nothing about what he is experiencing.
Yeah.
He might be going to your mom about these things. So we take that, sometimes we can take that model and we project it on our partner, and we're expecting our partner to do these things without realizing that there's a transition from parent to partner. Partner means I'm behind the veil. I'm now in the bedroom with my husband having the conversations that my dad was having with my mom I didn't know now. But now I am having these.
That's why parenthood is a big thing, because that's why a man in the home or a man in your life, let's just be honest, having male, like you say, having multiple men that could be the father figure, teach you that is imperative.
And even with that, they may not teach you that because they may not show it to you. So if you're going into a relationship, right, some of that discomfort from not knowing how to handle a man's emotions or make space for it is because you never experienced it.
Yeah.
And you might be expecting him to be like your dad, or like your uncle, or like your grandfather, or
Yeah.
like Mr. Jerry across the street, whoever. But they probably won't show their side to you until they get older. And so when you're stepping into a relationship, you have an understanding. You're going to see a different version of manhood. You're going to see the humanity of that masculinity, and vice versa. You can expect your partner to be like your mom. She's only going to show certain parts of herself to you.
Yeah.
So now you too are behind the veil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying. And it's not a hard go between, but there's a level of, and that's my problem. Just getting to that point, finding someone to safe space enough to get to that point. Because I ain't gonna lie, it feels, and it's hard because someone is judging you. I'm not scared of judgment or critique. You know what I'm saying? I get it. It's a woman's job that I need to feel secure in every way, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and so on and so forth. I'm finding a hard point of cutting across to let them know I'm just not this like workhorse. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That is what I'm saying. I can't even get them to understand from jump. Like, I'm a man that has to broke my emotional wall. I've had to have an ego death. So I'm not going to talk like any men you used to. I'm not going to look like them. My conversation definitely isn't the same. And so I'm going through a lot of busting through walls, trying to educate while I'm trying to date. That's what I'm saying. I feel like a parent.
I guess my interest would be, what am I trying to say? If you coming out the gates hot like that, I can see where some of that pushback can come from.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But that's what I'm asking too. Is,
like, how do I go about this in the dating?
hey, that's not what I'm doing. But it's like I can't even get a coupling, or we can't even build a rapport if I see you don't even have the propensity to operate with someone who's comprehensive, or at least trying to be. I'm on a healing journey, so it's going to be a lot of teaching I have to do. It's going to be a lot of education. And I don't know if I had the mental space and the mental capacity to do that with you while I'm trying to date you.
So I would say I think that's going to be a normal part of the dating process. This is going to be an area to where you might have more growth in, and to where she does not, and vice versa.
Fact.
Right? You're going to couple up with somebody that they have a deficit in the area. You're rarely going to come across somebody to where y'all just, I know we talk about that equally yoked type thing, and we really throw that around.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're not going to be completely equally yoked. You guys are going to have to grow together a certain way. Now,
that's right.
If they're not aligning with our relationship values, which is what it sounds like you're talking about, then yes, I can understand. Some of those relationship values we might have to reassess to see, are they realistic? What are the expectations that we have? But if we're going to be honest, there's going to be some teaching involved. And there's going to be some areas where she's going to have to teach you.
Facts, not infallible.
We've had a marriage. We've been divorced. We might have been out of the game for a little bit. That's going to have an impact on how you show up in relationships.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Because now we have to make sure that we're not showing, if she's never been married, make sure that's not the tone of my delivery.
Yeah.
Because that can also be, it may not be received the best. And then I also think there's nothing wrong with being able to understand that somebody may just not be for you. If she's coming into it saying, I'm expecting you to be a workhorse and to work all day while I take care of the house, and that's not the dynamic you want to subscribe to, you can say no, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Now she comes up to you and she says, look, I got my own and you got your own, and I think, hey, let's work together, but you also need to bust these suds and wash these clothes, and I'm going to wait on input if I'm going to be sitting here working just like you working. And if that's something that we're fine with, boom, you found somebody that you match with in a big area for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm tracking. I think I've met a couple of people I can do that, but it's like other things. I think, you know what? I meditated on that once, and by way of my science and engineering, there's a perfectionism to it. It's either yes or no, true or false, is or isn't. Double blind study. We can run automated tests 1,000 times, and it's going to be this every time. And you can't do that with people. And in real time, I'm realizing, like, I'm not, and make no mistake, I'm not looking for perfection, but I do think my unconscious, like my psychology, my sleeping psychology might be looking for excuses in which, like, I can just go away with that. I don't have to deal with that. You're not talking right. You don't understand certain things. I need to move forward, which is not right.
We can go deeper with that, but it's a podcast, not therapy session. I would also challenge you to look at, if I'm saying that I'm coming from a place of avoidance, is there a part of me that's trying to avoid what I may have experienced, some of the hurt that I've experienced in the past in my previous marriage? So where if there are things there that bring up the red flag right? And it could be a real red flag. If it brings up the red flag or the subconscious excuse, is that me trying to protect myself? And if that's the way I'm going about it, then I have to check and make sure that's not the case. But if it is, then I got to start challenging it. Because now I'm just finding anything.
Yeah.
Oh, man, she got spinach on her teeth. I don't know about that.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. I will be honest. I've done that once or twice. But yeah, it's not a therapy session. I think we were talking about the family dynamic. It was a woman who was younger than me, and she was expressing what she expects from the man. I just asked her a question about my expectation from a woman. She said something, and I was just like, nope, not doing it.
Never again.
You'll never hear from me
Never
again.
again.
But also, I realized I probably was doing that. I could have asked her a supplemental question. What exactly does that mean? What does that look like? Are you sure that's what you mean? Do you mean that's what you want to be done every day or every Tuesday? You know what I'm saying?
Get more information. But I think that can, again, I'm going to bring this back all the time. I think that goes to how men show up in relationships, right? And even the masculinity piece on that end, to where a lot of times you'll hear, man, I had my heart broken in high school, I had my heart broken in middle school, and now this is impacting my relationship. Or it could be, I work with a lot of military, right? A lot of, no offense against you, but a lot of y'all get married really early, right? There's a lot of benefits that come with it. One, y'all may not have been compatible in the first place, but then two, real young. There are our emotions, our experiences, and how we've been impacted by our past relationships. We can better engage in our current relationships. But in order to do that, I have to learn how to, again, sit and reflect on these things. If I was married and that marriage wasn't a great marriage, maybe it was an amazing marriage, right? And it ended. And I was like, yo, what happened? Why did this end? I'm going to have to learn how to grieve that. And I'm going to have to recognize when that grief is showing up in my dating experiences, right? If I've gone through childhood trauma, right? I talk to men all the time. They still game bangers because you can't get out of it. You know,
That's right. Yeah.
they'll say all the time, it wasn't traumatic to me at the time. No, man, you was killing people at 12. What are you talking about? Like you had to join this lifestyle because no one was there for you. You sure that's not?
Yeah.
You know, so really having to take off the cape, take off the superhero boots of masculinity, and engage more with our humanity. Is what I'm trying to say.
I'm with you. That Brad, there's a famous rapper named YG, and he just released a song talking about how he was abused. And I was just like,
that was wild too.
Listen, and it happens more often than not. There's a radio host that talked about it too, and as in the hood, as black men, you a champion.
I wouldn't even say that's not even in the hood. Just as a man, black boys in general. Man, when you see the comments of these teachers, unfortunately, these teachers sleep with these middle school and high school boys. If you look through that comment thread, black man, white man, Asian man, Hispanic man, oh man, where were these teachers at when I was y'all age? You be like, sir, you better leave Miss Martha alone.
Come on. Miss Johnson had a...
Right. But you're saying with the YG?
Yeah, he expressed in a song format, and he is a gamer. He is thorough, talks about it all the time. His first album, a couple of songs was him, like, pre-dating and going through criminal activity. He is on a song talking about how he was assaulted and abused as a child. So how can men get to that? There are other podcasts, there are resources out. You got Alma, we got Talkspace. How do you express to men to get to that point? Like, how can men find their voice, and how can they balance feeling secure in their own masculinity and then expressing that to anybody, mainly the boys? I want to say the homies because it's hard to do that, but just in general, how do you walk through your clients about, you know what I'm saying, have you told anyone this? How can they even get to the words?
Yeah, so I think it depends, right? I think it depends on the offense. Male on male sexual assault is going to be a lot harder to process and talk about even in a therapy session. One, it's an honor to hold that space for men to even talk about those things, whether it happened at a young age, whether it happened when they were teens. So I think that assault can become very difficult for men to talk about in a session, or them being able to process how that trauma has impacted them, versus when you're looking at sexual assault between a young boy and a woman. I think we see, based on these comments that are often said, or when people talk about it, it's not viewed in the lens of a sexual assault experience.
Yeah.
It's viewed in the lens of, I got her, right? I
Yep.
conquered this grown woman as a child. I think there's an instant with Lil Boosie. I think he bought a stripper for when he was like a teen to break his virginity. Because my virginity is more shameful as a man.
To have it,
right?
to still have it.
And so I think one way is you would have to really, again, reframe how we view masculinity. Because again, one of the stall parts, I don't know if I'm saying that, but the main factor points of being a man, right, is losing your virginity.
Yeah.
Having as much sex with as many women as possible, right? Because I'm a player, or I'm attractive. This is how I show my status. As long as that is there, a 12-year-old having sex with a 21-year-old, a 12-year-old having sex with an 18-year-old, a 50-year-old having sex with a 45-year-old, or a 50-year-old who most of us would deem attractive, is going to be seen as an accomplishment versus as, hey, man, like you. Because even when you say, hey, man, you got sexually assaulted. Nah, man, I was not. You don't understand, man. Miss Martha, boy.
Taught me some things.
She taught me, man. She did. No, that's not a conquest.
Yeah.
That's a perversion.
Yeah.
That's them, with that one being a pedophile. So to answer your question, we would have to, again, detach that from masculinity and how we define masculinity so that we can actually address it for what it really is. Because there's no problem with that with male on male. A lot of shame, a lot of questions of self. If there was some slight enjoyment in that with the pleasure piece, people will go to their deathbeds with that information. On the other end, though, that's praise to the street. Oh, my son lost his virginity. Oh, yeah, I slept with my babysitter. And that's why I like the YG song. Because YG could have easily been like, I've been a player since I was 12. But he actually addresses it as, no. Now that I know, I had to accept it for what it was. Now, I would say, how do we process once we accept what actually happened to us? Now I have to look at it as something different. Wait, no, I was a child that was taken advantage of. Now I have to grieve what it was, and now I have to deal with the complexities of what it is.
Yeah, that's a long process. I minimize. I never want to minimize. I'm trying to think of my instances. I'm trying to, how I try to show up in these circles with kind of like men and trying to navigate the conversation to something more real. Nothing against sports and all that. We easily could connect. Give me some real, I like plausibility. That's my engineering brain. So give me some real life sentences. You're new to a group of men. You've been knowing them for 2 or 3 months. It's been weird. Y'all been meeting at least once a week. You want to break, and you said the how are you doing question. Let's say you get past that. Let's say you're hurting. And you feel as if, though, you can say this thing to these group of men in this instance, but if we're being honest, you feel insecure about saying it to them yet because you don't know if you can cross that bridge, but how can you get to the other side if you don't take the first step, right? So let's say you're in that instance, you're drowning for some reason. You may have lost your job, you still dating, whatever it may be. What is a sentence, a phrase that you would say to break the ice, to open up, create an emotional space with these other men? Because us men are very simple. Sometimes you just need to be. Some men are very linear. They're thinking like, I need this, bro. I understand the conversation is going great, but some men are like, just tell me. I know those men. I know.
Yeah, you do. And so 2 to 3 months can be a short period of time. So I think sports actually can be a great segue into those conversations. They have these videos on TikTok and Instagram and all that, right? To where it's all, a man's having a hard time talking, but all of a sudden they toss them a football and they start throwing the football, and all of a sudden they start talking. Yeah, man, because when I was 5, like I remember I was trying to ride a bike and I fell, and my dad was like,
quit crying.
He yelled at me like, quit crying. Boy, what? And so sports can actually be a space to build the rapport to get to that spot. So it's not always just like an avoider.
Yeah.
But it can be the way that I'm building the camaraderie with this individual.
Yeah. Okay.
But sometimes too, you could just say, hey, I need to talk. Hey, I'm really like not doing okay. Like, I don't think you guys understand how much coming up in this space means a lot to me. Because right now, I don't feel like I'm getting the same support at XYZ. Man, you know what? If your friends, oh man, what's up? How you been doing? You might be like, man, to be honest with you, work been tough. And so if you have that rapport, those can be the ways to bring those conversations in. But even then, you want to have boundaries. I just want to be trauma dumping on people.
Yeah.
If we out at Buffalo Wild Wings, I may not want to hear about your divorce. So sometimes you can ask, hey y'all, I need to talk about what do y'all have like the space for that? Do you have the mental capacity?
Yeah,
for
right
this?
now, I'm with you.
Right now, if y'all meet up at Buffalo Wild Wings and y'all always be talking about your family or your wives or your work or your siblings, then you've already built those touch points of those conversations to where you have a fish line drawn into that.
Okay. I'm tracking. Okay. There you go. A real world sentence. Use it as you may, as you see fit. So I want to, as this is the last thing to wrap up. So you touched on something, and I was thinking through the whole time how to create a through line. We talked about masculinity. We talked about how you show up. We talked about meritocracy. And a lot of things that like men and mostly men of color is like those men that have been abused early by men, they may have gone through something psychosomatic that's like conflict between body and mind, psychosomatic, as they grow of whether or not are they into men now at this point. And when men aren't playing their role, when there's in this area, they like men aren't, and I can understand it. There are a few things that happen that will cause this to no longer happen. Men aren't approaching women anymore, and women are mad. They tight about this. And it's not happening at a rate that they would like because of the social standard and social setting that we have set. And there's a lot of slurs about homophobia towards men about, oh, you must not like women. You must be gay. And I was just like, maybe he's going through something where he's trying to figure it out. Maybe he was abused. Is he okay with that? Can he do that with you as a woman? Can we outwardly say we are fluid? Listen, let me open myself up. I made a joke about it, but in a sense, I am secure, and I should be secure with just saying I'm fluid with my emotions and not having to predicate and preface that so someone can know I'm not talking about this thing about my sexuality.
Right. I'm gonna say no homo after every single thing.
I don't have to say I'm a grown man. I ain't gotta say pause. You know what I'm saying?
Pause. I can eat a hot dog freely and enjoy. I can eat an ice cream cone.
You know what I'm saying? I can eat a banana. I don't have to break apart a banana and
first off.
Come on now. But in a real way, that is afflicting some men. Those men who were abused.
So what's the question exactly?
So how can men be open and operate in the space if they are fluid, if they are dealing with something, and for the men who are not, how can we like battle this kind of negative perception that we got to be so masculine and so tough? Any mention of our masculinity being fluid or our sexuality being fluid, we got to puffing up. We gotta start breaking our chest. We turn into a gorilla, and it's just that is affecting us in a whole other way because there are a lot of black men, whether it be anywhere. There are some spaces where there are more, but there are men who we should be open to do what we want, say what we want, and then that shouldn't be the first thing. Not even just our women, other men use to lash us. Don't do that, boy. You look at other men sometimes too long. We see you.
But that's where the masculine line, feminine line that Adler was talking about comes into play. Anything that feels or looks like femininity, I'm aggressively running away from. I'm overcompensating for that. So if I see an attractive, I'm not gay, but I feel like I know what an attractive man look like. If there's an attractive man that show up, I'm like, oh, that's an attractive man. If Morris Chestnut walked into this room, I'm not gonna be like, no, it's Morris Chestnut at this age. He's an attractive man. I can do that and not question my own sexuality. So one, being comfortable with that, like you said, because I think that also gets in the way of our relationships with one another as men and as black, hugging each other, saying I love you. Hey man, I was just calling to make sure you got in the house safe. Or hey, I'm gonna sit out here for a little bit and watch you while you walk to the door. The first, what you mean? That ain't no punk. What you talking about?
I do want to say that there's a running joke on TikTok where black men are calling other black men and say, I want to tell you good night. Hey nigga, what you talking about?
Look, my boy James, one of my best friends, he called and said, man, I just want to tell you good night. One, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, hey, you all right? Like do we need to talk? What's going on? I'm not letting you off this phone. Because one, you don't normally call each other good
I was about
night.
to say, it depends on your relationship.
Right, when you don't do that. And we talk about a lot of stuff. Like, if two people saw us talking, you'll be confused. But if he was to call me and say that, I had to check. Hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Everything all right? Okay, cool. Just making sure. Because I don't want to hear no news the next day. I'm like, I could have did something, right?
Yeah.
But one, I think it impacts the way that we show each other affection. Right? Where, man, sons can't even kiss their dads on the lips. Just looked at as weird.
Yeah.
Or hug one another. Or all of these things because the fear of it being seen as being gay. And then it reflects even more of how rapid or rampant homophobia is in the black community. Right? Because now that's them being ostracized and oppressed and all those things on that end. And so one of the ways I think we can get free of that, I guess you could say combat it, is again detaching ourselves from these standards of masculinity. And it's going to be difficult to do because it's dang near DNA based at this point.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Now,
generationally built.
scientifically, I don't have the credentials to say that part. But so when I say DNA based, it's deeply socially rooted to where when you are trying to disconnect and disengage from it, it's almost like something inside you throws a tantrum. It's almost like something inside you is like, wait, hold on, no, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel safe. Hey,
What kind of was so in myself, I'm so secure, I don't have to do that. And kind of is there a wrong thing about that? If in your sensibility you're heterosexual, I'm not saying lose sleep and threaten people in public when some people say you gay. It's a security type of thing, but in your mind, it's like a wrong thing to be like, I'm gonna fight myself on this one. I know I'm this.
yeah, so it's not even just when we're looking at sexuality, but just what the standards of masculinity or black masculinity in general. When you are choosing to unplug from that matrix, that sometimes because you've been plugged in for so long, literally like when Neo finds out about the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
He goes through a whole birthing process, right? It's almost like that. It feels uncomfortable at first because you're having to adjust to it, and people are having to adjust around you if they want to stay in your life. It can feel uncomfortable because it doesn't feel like I'm showing up as a man. And I'm showing up as a person, and I'm foreign to that because up to this point in my life, I've showed up in this type of standard and expectation of this how I've been defined. Now I'm saying I no longer want to be defined by these things. I want to be defined by my character. I want to be defined by who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And so it's going to feel like I'm failing as a man.
Yeah.
Pregnancy hurts. It's painful. There's going to be a little bit of pain in that transition. You put a Band-Aid over anything or rip it off, there's going to be pain. If you're healing from a surgery, there's going to be a painful process in the healing.
Yeah.
And so I think we experience that in transition. Now, when it comes to sexuality, when you become more comfortable with who you are as a person, people can say what they want to say about you. It don't make no difference to me.
And that's where women kind of standpoint come from, in like men on the down low, men who come from jail, and they're dealing with that, and it's I don't want to deal with that. But you also don't have to like openly like accuse men and use that as a slur of when he doesn't offer a 200 date or when he doesn't approach you in public. Like I said, like I'm not approaching every attractive one. I be saying this, and I think people believe I'm capping or lying. I don't approach every woman I'm attracted to in public. I don't even try to talk to them. I don't have to. I can't talk to every woman on this earth that look good.
I think the main question was when some women start to use homophobic slurs to demean men when they're not meeting their expectations, willing to do things, right? It's really troublesome because one, you are making homosexuality this negative thing when that's just how a person, that's how they're showing up, that's just how they are. So who I am as a person is not something you can use to insult another person or to demean their masculinity. And then to go around and say, this is my gay best friend.
Supposedly, you're the number one supporter of that.
That's not true allyship if you're going to turn around and say, oh, you must be gay because you be kikiing with your homeboys. Right? Hey, this person might be the person that gives me the safe space that you don't give me. Or you must be gay because you're not approaching me. It's going to be difficult to approach anybody that is not coming off as welcoming. Now, some of that is going to be attuned to making sure that they're safe. Because a woman can't trust every man that's just walking around and assume that he's going to be a safe individual.
Yes.
So there's going to be that, like, don't talk to me
For
face.
sure.
Or they might give you a little leeway just to see how you are, but still set the strong boundary, which I definitely suggest. One of the reasons men don't approach women in general is even before all this showed up, that's a lot of risk and a lot of pressure. To go up to a woman you find attractive and to pray to God that she don't shut you down in the most rudest way possible. If you're going to shut somebody down, at least be like pleasant. Hey, I'm glad you came. If you want to buy me a drink, that's fine, but I'm not looking for nobody right now. Or you're not my type. Let them down that way.
Yeah.
Right now,
Why'd you even come over here? Why'd you think you would come talk to me? Now, and
there's a flip side to that.
I'm about to say, in their defense, I do talk to women platonically, straight up, like I'm not interested in them. And they say, sometimes you got to do that to men because they're overbearing. Like they're hyper masculine in the patriarchy, they think you playing hard to get, so they think you got to go harder. They think you like them. I got to be nasty to these N-word Negroes. I got to. They not getting it. Y'all just don't know how to get shut down in reaction. And we got to have part 2 because that's something we got to go into. Sensitivity of getting rejected.
Yeah,
How does
you
that look
gotta learn
like?
how to deal with rejection.
How
Yeah,
does
and
that afflict you and how you present in other places in the workplace?
Yeah.
So on and so forth. But anyway, to close that, you are there is a flip side to that. Sorry, not to cut you off. Yeah.
no, and I think the flip side is a lot of young men and older men do not know how to deal with rejection, or they get violent.
Yes, that's the
Right.
big problem.
I won't use the word that's stronger than disappointing. It's very sad to see that.
It's disheartening. at
There you
best.
go. It's very disheartening. And so when you're looking at all these different dynamics in masculinity and black men and black women relationships, in our relationship as a black community overall, I think one thing I can gain from our conversations, there's a lot of complexities to this. It's a reflection of our humanity. People are complex. If I can tell you anything else as a therapist, people are complex, and there's more to these people and to us as a people than Instagram snippets, right? Than
Power couples.
than YouTube snippets, than power couples, than what the history books try to say about us, or what our neighborhoods try to say about us. Especially when the people outside looking in don't know how that neighborhood dynamic operates. But yeah, there's a lot of complexities to black masculinity overall that need to be explored, especially when you start to introduce one's humanity into that.
I'm sure. I'm with you. Blessed, I think there was an amazing conversation. I didn't know it was going to flow that well. I thought we was going to get done probably like 30 minutes earlier and we was going to truck him. I remember you was worried. You was like, it's a whole 2 hours? I'm like, it's not. It's an hour and a half. But once you get into it and you talk about something real and in the depth,
It goes
come
all
on
over the
now.
place.
But we got 4 minutes, so I like to extend this time because I am grateful. People's time does not miss me. I appreciate it. We had a conversation. I think we both reached out. I put out something, you reached out. I give this time for you to fully commit to promoting yourself. Market and promote. You have your own practice. Let us know where people can find you, why they should find you. For the men out there, how are you helping them? Let men know how you are helping them to heal, where they can find you socially, on the internet, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I have my own private practice in Dallas, Texas. I'm virtual right now. My private practice is Owens, Owens, counseling and consulting. And so I mostly work with men, usually work with adult ages. I would say anywhere within the early 20s to like late 60s and 70s. My average client right now is actually in their 40s and 50s. I think that's because I'm running a Facebook ad.
Smart.
But I'm loving it though, because there's so much depth there in those conversations. I'm licensed here in Texas. I'm also licensed in Louisiana. So what that means is I can see clients virtually that are from the state of Texas and that are also from the state of Louisiana. So if you are in the Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Grambling, Ruston, Louisiana, Monroe, North, South Louisiana, I can see you. That's where I went to school at for undergrad and graduates. I love it when I can see fellow individuals from Louisiana. But the one thing that I really work on with men is humanizing masculinity, which is one of the key points that we talked about today, and emotional development. I truly believe that by developing your emotional processing skills, you're better able to manage the stressors that life would give to you. Because when you're operating in a space of rigid masculinity, it makes you inflexible. And what I've learned about life within these 33 years is that life is going to throw things at you that does not allow you to show up in these masculine standards. Because we lose jobs, we get injured, we age, our financial situations changes at times. The way that we're able to get and address women change. Our desire in that changes. And so if your sense of masculinity is not changing and growing as you are, then you're going to find yourself stuck in this very complicated, frustrating space. And so by helping black men develop emotions, I really help them learn how to deal with the challenges of life and make room for themselves. And in doing that, I collaborate, because I'm learning how to do these things too. Like I was just saying, I do the research, but I still find myself towing the line. And so that's really how I go about things. That's how I work with black men. I'm also becoming more engaged within the South Dallas community. I was able to connect to a few community leaders that are amazing, dope men. So I plan on doing a lot more work with them. One of the men that I'm going to be working with, his name is Shakir King. He's an artist and a rapper, but he does a lot of community work with the youth. There's also a pastor. They work together. I'm forgetting the pastor's name right now, but he's a big pastor in South Dallas. And so they're bringing me into the fold to contribute that, and also just me adding to the work they're already doing. So I'm really excited about that when we do start doing those type of things. So yeah, those are some things I've been working on. I love mental health. Love working with my people, man. I really
Love
do.
it. Okay. I was sitting here. As you was talking, I was sitting looking. I was like, I love talking to psychologists because it's y'all job to talk, and it's so easy to come in here. I don't have to make nothing artificial. I ain't had to come in with a piece of paper and a cue card. I want to get there to be that professional. You know what I'm saying? This next stage of the podcast is really about elevation. I'm elevating the look. Want to be 4K. Want to give production value. But anyway, I love talking to psychologists. It's so easy. I love the work. First of all, let me say, from a therapized young man, black man, thank you. There are not many black men who are therapists. We need you. I want to say thank you. I hope you are blessed in your practice. Hope your personal practice does well. Hope it grows. You can sustain and make a living in abundance and overflow in this space because you are needed. That and black women therapists are needed too. I've seen one. My first black therapist was a middle-aged black woman. I definitely needed that. But as a black man going older, I need other men, and not just in the regular space, in the professional space. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for your time. Social media. Do you have social media? Tell me if you have a part of the personal practice. Tell them the Instagram. If you have TikTok, all that. Give them that.
My Instagram is Your Sweater Therapist. Literally all one word. I need to post more on it. So definitely, definitely got to learn how to use that a lot more.
Grow the brand.
I think one thing I learned with therapists, we don't always feel the most comfortable posting certain things.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Because then people can start questioning. But I've gotten out of the space of caring about it. I just ain't made time for it. I'm doing more of these type of things now, so I can really care less at this point.
I was about to say, it's been a long time coming for this one. I know anyone who subscribed is like, what are you doing? Do you really care about black men? I do. I started a business. I'm an engineer. So you got the socials. Oh, I've started a new thing where I wrap up every episode like this. So I ask every therapist this. What is therapy?
Ooh, what is therapy? So to me, I think that therapy is a space to process your stressors, explore your sense of self, unlearn maladaptive thinking and behaviors, and also just to really re-engage life authentically. And so it's like really being able to process all those things together. I think that's how we become a more evolved version of ourselves. Not necessarily a better, because I want to be a better version. No, I think an evolved version of self that has been processed through growth.
Roger. Okay. I want all you men, if you didn't learn nothing else here, learn how to be comprehensive more than anything. Once again, this is MHP. I'm Mr. Theo, your host. Mr. Owens, I want to thank you. It was a lovely and enlightening conversation. We'll give his socials all in the description. We'll be clipping this up and sending it out to you all. Thank you for your time. Until next time, peace and love.